Honestly, it's difficult to believe that right now, given our current Brexit stance, that what Rishi Sunak is about to do is going to implement Theresa May's Chequers deal. I kid you not, we are in a position where in 2016, 2017, 2018, the entire Tory party ripped themselves in two over this very idea that this Chequers deal, this whole idea that Theresa May had put forward, was completely and utterly just not going to work, that we could never do this, that this would be a capitulation to the EU. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Now, why is this happening? Well, this, from what we know, that Rishi Sunak has supposedly offered under the table Jeffrey Donaldson and the DUP, shall we say, certain conditions. And these certain conditions pretty much amount to the Chequers deal that Theresa May was booted out of office for. Not only that, you also might wonder, who are these three not so wise men? Well, from what we now hear, Rishi Sunak owes Jacob Rees-Mogg, Ian Duncan Smith, and John Redwood a massive favour because apparently without them, his Rwanda deal might not have passed. And now these three not so wise men are absolutely in fits at the idea that Rishi Sunak, after owing them a favour, after making sure that his Rwanda deal went through, well, shall we say, all is not a silent night in Bethlehem, and the three not so wise men are pretty miffed at this moment in time on their way to the manger. And needless to say, there's some serious thought about, do we now seriously think about, well, getting rid of the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, from these three people, these three wonderful wise men? Anyway, before we do go getting more into this and this absolutely brand new ridiculous stance that we have now found ourselves in, again, the twist of the ultimate Brexit saga is we've gone from Theresa May all around in a massive circle back to the point of almost Theresa May's Chequers deal again. What an absolute waste of time this whole thing has been. But there you go. Anyway, before we do get more into this, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a notification link called Buy Me Coffee. You can, well, buy me coffee. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button. And of course, there is the Pony Club as well. You can join too. And of course, well, I've said that, of course, 3 times now, so it's the magic number. You can click the like and share button. That also helps out the channel. So let's get on into this. Well, this story today comes from the New European with a titled "A New Tory War Begins." So let's find out what this new, as we said, what the new Tory War is going to be. And it is all centered around, surprise, surprise, Brexit and what it is that Rishi Sunak is going to offer to Jeffrey Donaldson. So let's dig into this. Rishi Sunak dodged a bullet earlier this month when a move by the Conservative right against his Rwanda bill collapsed, apparently on the intervention of Jacob Rees-Mogg, Ian Duncan Smith, and John Redwood. So remember this. These three people now feel owed and indebted to, that they did Rishi Sunak a massive favour. So shouldn't now Rishi return that favour? Oh, well, apparently not. So this trio of Brexiteers have been dubbed the Three Wise Men, suggesting that not only do the Tories need a new leader and a new direction, they could also do with a new dictionary containing the proper definition of wise. again, couldn't agree more with that. But peace never lasts long in the rats in sack party, and dissent has broken out once again. We said this would happen. Didn't matter if Rishi Sunak managed to, quote, see down the far right. There's already been 2 rebellions already since the Rwanda bill. You know, he's hardly, shall we say, seen them down. But there you go. Anyway, unsurprisingly, it is now with Europe and Brexit at its heart. This time, the squabble is over the suggestions that Sunak has offered to sacrifice some of Britain's Brexit freedoms in a bid to re-establish the devolved government in Northern Ireland. As the Daily Telegraph reported on Wednesday, the theory is that by promising no extra trade barriers in the Irish Sea, the Prime Minister will be able to persuade the Democratic Unionist Party to end its 2-year boycott of Stormont and the Northern Irish Parliament. Good luck with that. We'll see. We'll see if this what gets the DUP back in. But if he is serious on this and he is going, there's going to be no further trade barriers, then effectively this means this is Chequers in all but name. That we are going to have to align with the EU on a ton of different rules and regulations, regardless now of what happens going forward, of what they say about diverging and things like that. That potentially isn't going to happen. And like I say, Kimi Badnoch also got involved in this story and came out on Wednesday as well, which has also added fuel to this fire. So we'll see what happens when she gets into the story later on. So there is a credibility issue for the DUP to ponder here. It is merely 3 years and 6 months since Boris Johnson promised that there will be no trade border down the Irish Sea over my dead body. And by and large, Sunak is, and it's a sensible proposal which explains why the 5 families and the 3 wise men, and for all we know, the 4 non-blondes and 10,000 maniacs are now dead against it. Putting up no new trade barriers would effectively mean that Britain is now tying itself to EU standards and governing products sold in the bloc. This is, of course, good news for British exporters. Alignment means that our farmers and manufacturers can keep accessing their biggest and closest market without additional drama. Now, the thing now becomes, what if this becomes more than rumor? Because again, we've got to stress at the moment, this is just the rumors, that this is what Sunak has offered Donaldson, like under the table. And if this is true, then are we going to see once again in the Tory party Brexit erupt? Because remember, they got rid of Theresa May over this very thing. Are we going to see an actual proper rebellion? Are we going to see the type of thing that we saw back against Theresa May? It's doubtful, because obviously you've got to remember now, there is no slim majority. There is no, her government isn't being propped up by the DUP. Sunak has this very unruly majority, but will they do it? Will they go for it? We've already seen that they have been very, very careful not to go in that direction, because if they did have a leadership contest, they knew and know they would have to go for a general election. And remember, the current frontrunner, according to the bookies, and of course, remember, Conservative Home's poll of polls, Kimi Badnoch leading the pack. Now, remember, the right has said a while ago, you will never be leader of the Conservative Party. So if Badnoch does throw her hat into the ring, she is going to have to try and tame the right of the party, which, bear in mind, I do not think she would be able to do. She might come from that party, but she has upset many, many apple carts along the way, consistently. So while she might have well, the non-parliamentary support? Does she actually have the support of the Tory MPs to be able to be crowned? If not, you're going to get into a contest. And this contest could last a while. It's going to be a whole new series of psychodramas. And at the end of it, they're going to have to go to a general election. Either way, it does not look good. It does not look good for the Tory party, shall we say, for the foreseeable future. So, this would also mean that there'll be no need to produce different products for different markets, and there will be no need for Britain to set up its own rules and regulations, creating additional bureaucracy and cost that will be passed on to the exporters. Yet, of course, the hardcore Brexit now think different. In their view, shared by a few in farming or manufacturing, diverging and lowering the standards under which British foods and other products are produced will pay dividends. They claim, for instance, that the more farmers are keen to grow and sell gene-edited crops, those in England can already do so, but since these cannot be then sold onto Europe or Africa, this is a Brexit freedom. Really, is this really going to amount to much? And of course, the farming giants in the USA and Australia have their own markets all sewn up. So 2 of these 3 wise men are now furious at what probably is going to be portrayed as a Brexit betrayal. Rees-Mogg harumphed, saying that this means that we will not diverge at all and we will have to end up with Theresa May Chequers deal in all but name. I know, just think about it. Just what was the point of it all? What was the point? Although we asked that about Brexit all the time, but you've gone back from rejecting everything about Chequers to now back to here. And I do not think they have the power and strength that they once did back when Theresa May was in charge. They have folded time after time after time, threatening rebellion after rebellion after rebellion. And remember, there comes a point where I think Rishi Sunak might actually go, okay, rebel. After all, we've seen rebellions talked up, fermented, and then fizzle out when it's come to do the deed. At what point does Rishi Sunak stop taking threats of rebellion seriously? That's a valid question. So, Duncan Smith called the plan a real problem, and Redwood was probably off in a corner being wise. Anyway, despite their claims of being owed one for Rwanda, you suspect that the Prime Minister will not be too worried by the latest grumblings of these yesterday men in their perpetual cavers in. What this will do, what this will actually send a shiver down his spine, is what Kimmy Badenoch, now the standard bearer of the Tory Right, said in the Commons on Wednesday. And this is where Kimmy Badenoch comes into the story as well. So, the Trade Secretary said it was important that, quote, we retain the ability to diverge, and added that if we are really to seize the benefits of Brexit, we need to find that competitive advantage in our regulations with the EU. Otherwise, there would be no point. Kimmy Badenoch just completely outing the fact that Brexit was just a complete waste of time there in that sentence. So anyway, let's finish this off. So in that final sentence, not only did she put Sunak on notice, but revealed a very uncomfortable truth about leaving the EU. That since diverging causes far more downsides than upsides, there really was no point to Brexit. So, Kimmy Badenoch. Yeah, the future leader of the Tory party. I don't think so. I really do not think so at this point. The right have been consistently upset about Kimmy Badenoch. There's a lot of people that point to her now as but her current job, the international trade and business, and saying that she's doing an absolutely terrible job, that she hasn't really achieved anything. And doing, again, bear in mind, she's meant to be on the Tory right. She's meant to be all for deregulation and going crazy in this free market fundamentalist route, but she doesn't do it. She's not doing it. She's not doing and reading from the Tory gospel that apparently all these other crazy free market fundamentalists are reading from as well. What's going on? I'll tell you now, if she goes forward for the party leadership, she's going to have to fight tooth and nail against many of these people on the right. And then she's not going to get many of the support of the One Nation Tories because they don't like her either. I think her chances of becoming leader in a MP selection of this are very, very slim. And if she does make it to the actual, non-parliamentary vote of Conservative voters, maybe then she might stand a chance. But at that point, the psychodrama of everything could play out, and who knows what Conservative voters are going to think at that point. But yeah, so yeah, let me know what you think of this new latest psychodrama that has now enveloped the Tory party. How do you feel about our travel from chucking Chequers to now having Chequers in all but name? It's been a strange journey, but as we always said, eventually, when it comes to Brexit, reality always wins. And reality is knocking very hard at the door of Brexit these days indeed. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll see you all next time.